Hello friends, in this video, I will share with you all that you need to know about PI Cognitive Assessment Test and tips to ace it. Now, apart from this video, I will make a separate video where I will take you through how you should go about solving each and different type of questions that come in the cognitive assessment test. What I will do is I will collect all the questions that are there on the web. I will put them in one video and will help you understand how you should go about answering them. And not just about answering them simply, rather also how you can hack or answer them in a very quick and a smart way. So I will take you through that training exercise in a different video, for which I will leave the link in the description of this video. Now let me start by talking about what is PI Cognitive Assessment Test. It is essentially an employment test. What I mean by employment test is employers make use of this test in order to gauge a candidate's mental capability and critical thinking. So essentially, it is a way for an organization to shortlist the large number of candidates that they've received for a particular position and only select a few that they can take through the rest of the hiring process. And these selected few are the ones who rank higher in the test because they are assumed to have better critical thinking and problem solving skills. Now, a particular organization may use PI Cognitive Assessment Test hand in hand with PI Behavioral Assessment Test. So PI Behavioral Assessment Test kind of measures the behavior of the particular candidate, and the Cognitive Assessment Test measures the problem solving skills or the cognitive capability. And they may want to judge a particular candidate on both the measures, which is their behavioral aspect and their cognitive aspect. So in case you receive both tests, for PI assessment, I've made a separate video, rather I've made a bunch of videos, and I will leave the link to the playlist for all those videos in the description of this video. You can check it out in order to know how you should go about acing the PI Behavioral Assessment Test. For this video, we will stick to Cognitive Assessment Test. As a starter, calculators are not allowed, and second, I recommend and highly recommend don't cheat, because there could be an instance where you are asked to complete this test and you may choose to ask someone else to deliver this test for you. And when you go on the job on the day when you're interviewed, you may be asked to give the test again. And if you score remarkably low, that will go to show that you didn't do it the first time when it was sent to you online. So don't try to cheat. Rather, listen to this video till the end, and I will help you with this video and with other videos that I will create in order for you to practice this test, ace this test. So you will not have to cheat or fear this test at all. So stay tuned. Now, one call out before we move forward. In case you find any value from this video, I have two requests for you. One, press the like button, as this motivates me to continue making similar content. Second, press the subscribe button with the bell icon so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. On this channel, I post content pertaining to financial and career success for early and mid-career professionals. One more thing. In case you want me to continue to make unbiased similar content, you can support me on patreon.com. I will leave the link to my Patreon page in the description of this video. Now let's get rolling back into the video. Now next, let me talk about the format of the test. One, you have the choice of answering the test in multiple languages. You can choose your preferred language using the drop-down menu, and it could be different from the language in which you've received the link for the test in your email. Second, the test is timed to 12 minutes and you will have those 12 minutes to answer 50 multiple choice questions. These 50 multiple choice questions will appear in chunks of 5 questions per page. So as soon as you start the test, on the first page, you'll see 5 questions. Once you answer those questions and click next, the next page will show another 5 questions. So technically speaking, you will have 10 pages to sift through in order for you to reach from 1 to the 50th question. Now next, let me talk about the scoring. For each question that you deliver the right answer, you get 1 point, and you don't get a negative point for answering a particular question wrong, which is very important to note because I will elaborate on this point when I talk to you about the tips with regards to how you can go about acing this PI cognitive test. Second, on average, all of the people or the universe of people who have taken or appeared in the cognitive assessment test, their score is around 20. So they've got 20 questions right. If there's someone who gets 50 questions right in 12 minutes, they will fall in the top 1 percentile of the entire universe who has appeared in the PI cognitive assessment test. Lastly, these numbers that is, let's say you do 20 questions correct, are converted onto a scale. So if you do 20 questions correct, your scale or scoring will be 250. If you do 40 questions correct, you will be given a scale, and on that scale or the conversion scale, your score will be 450. So there is a conversion scale that PI system uses in order to convert your correct answers and bring it on that scale. Each job has a different score requirement, but for the most sought after and most competitive jobs, the requirement with regards to the scoring falls in the range of between 28 to 34 correct answers.
Now, one important call out. While it is very important for you to know all these hacks, these tips and tricks, and also apply them on the final test, however, before that, you need to practice. And you need to practice on a real time basis, which is a real test scenario. Now, a lot of my followers and people I coach for PI cognitive assessment test came to me asking whether I can recommend a resource on the web where they can go and practice a real test format, which kind of mimics the real test. So, for two reasons. One is they are able to practice their skills on how to solve the question. And second, and more importantly, get familiar with the format. Because when you will go on the first day and appear for the test, your mind will take some time, at least 30 seconds or a minute, for it to get familiar with the format, the font, the style, the placement. All of this will take some time, and this will slow you down. So it is better for you to appear on a sample test so you are kind of familiar with the format. As soon as you click yes, ready to give the test, you know what is coming on the screen because you've seen it before. It's just that it's a different question and it has some different numbers, but the format, the structure, and the coloring, the font, the size, the placement, everything is same. So your mind is already ready to handle the question as against trying to read and understand the format. So what I did was I sifted through a lot of information on the web to find that one resource which mimics the test that you should expect to receive on the final day in terms of not just the questions but also the format. I will leave the link to that resource in the description of this video. I highly recommend you check it out and try to practice before you appear in the final test.
Now let me talk about the content. Under the content, you will have abstract reasoning, you will have numerical reasoning, and you will have verbal reasoning. Let's elaborate more on these three types or three sections of the test. Now, numeric reasoning questions assesses your ability to reason using numbers and numerical concepts, and they measure analytical thinking. In order to solve the questions of this category, you need to have previous knowledge of the following: 4 basic math operations, that is plus, minus, divide, multiplication, how to approach and solve problems that involve fractions, percentages, and decimals. So you should be familiar with those. The basics of calculating an average and working with probabilities and ratios. Now, the three types of questions that comprise this numerical reasoning section are word problems. Under word problems, you need to solve a mathematical word problem. These math problems involve different types of math calculations, anywhere from basic operations to statistics and probability. Second is number series. You must decipher the underlying logic of a series of numbers and find the next number in the series. The third is value estimation, where you are required to determine which numerical expression has the highest or the lowest value. The expression usually consists of fractions and decimals. With regards to verbal reasoning, which is the second type of reasoning that will show up in the test, it assesses reasoning and comprehension of words, constructive thinking, and logical reasoning ability. The three types of questions in this section are word analogies, where your goal is to find a meaningful relationship between two words, let's say word A and word B. Once you have established the relationship, you will locate another pair of words that has the same relationship. So the sentence word A is to word B, like word C is to word D, will be correct. Next is finding antonyms. So you need to find a word whose meaning is opposite of the given word. Next is formal logic. Here you analyze several assumptions and determine whether a suggested conclusion is true, false, or cannot be determined to be true or false based on the assumptions. And the next is abstract reasoning. This category assesses your ability to visualize, make spatial judgments, and solve problems. In most cases, you are required to compare several elements in order to complete one of the two tasks. To find another element that completes a pattern, so pattern completion, to find an element that doesn't follow the same pattern as the rest of the elements, so finding the odd one out. So under series completion, you must decipher the underlying logic of a series of shapes to find the next shape in the series, so complete the pattern. Next is shape analogy. Here the goal is to find meaningful relationship between shapes and locate a shape that possesses a similar relationship with another given shape. Then comes finding the odd one out. Here you are presented with an original pair of shapes that share a common feature. So they have a common feature between them, and you need to identify that common feature. Then you will see 4 additional shapes, of which 3 of them share that same feature that you've identified, but there is one that doesn't share that same feature, and that is the correct answer because that is the odd shape. Now here comes the part where I share with you the tips that can help you ace the PI cognitive assessment test. Tip number 1 is practice, practice, and practice. Here the important feature is not just to practice in regards to coming up with the right answer, but rather to practice to come up with the right answer as quick as possible. Because you may come up with the right answer and take 2 minutes to answer a particular question, but that means you've almost used 10% of your time in just answering one question out of 50. Which means although you found the right answer, however, it's still a failure because you took a lot of time in finding the right answer. So here one pro tip could be not going through the detailed calculation in order to find the right answer, rather trying to go with an elimination approach. So eliminate the answers which are obviously wrong, and hence trying to increase your odds of picking the right answer. So out of 4 answers, you may be able to easily eliminate 2 and you're just left with 2. And out of those 2, you can easily pick one or the other, and even if it requires some guesswork, but by now you've increased the chances of success as against trying to do a guesswork with 4 answers. Now you're guessing between 2. So you're much better, or you're in much better shape. Similarly, every time you practice a particular question, look for ways how you can do it faster. Again, the idea is not just to deliver the answer right. For that matter, if you have unlimited time, you would be able to easily score a very high number. The challenge is not finding the right answer. The challenge is to be able to find an answer as quickly as possible. So see, as you're practicing or as you're going through your practice test or your practice samples, see how you can find a smart way of answering a particular question as fast as possible. This is exactly what I will do in a separate video which I will make, where I will take you through multiple questions and help you understand how you can find answer to them, and not just find an answer. How do you go about finding an answer as soon as possible? So all the hacks, tips and tricks involved with regards to a particular question. So make sure you also check out that video as you're preparing for your PI cognitive assessment test. Next tip is to find your strength and find your weaknesses and whatever lies in between. Here, as I said previously, it is important to note that you don't get a negative point for answering a question wrong. So you should be almost answering all 50 questions by the end, even if that means that you would be guessing a few. The importance of finding your strengths is these are the questions on which you don't need to focus much when you're practicing, because these are the questions they are your strength. You can answer them very quickly, so you don't need to prepare much on them. Weakness, just ignore them, because it will take you a lot to learn and get better at your weakness. These are the questions which you can just do guessing, and you can simply guess and move on, because as I said, you won't have time to answer every question, so you just rather leave the difficult part of the questions just for guessing. And then comes everything in the middle. These are the questions on which you need to prepare and you need to focus and invest the time, because you are not very good at them, but you're not very bad. And if you put little effort, you can make or find a better answer or the right answer. So you need to practice more on them, focus on them. And also during the test, you need to allocate some time to them, because they will be taking most amount of your time. Given the strength part, you will do very quickly. Given the weakness part, you will do very quickly because you will just be guessing. And these are the questions in the middle where you will be putting or investing a lot of time. So make sure you prepare for them when you go in the test. Another tip is a very pro tip with regards to learning anything. The best way for your brain to learn anything is to learn in chunks. So learn for, let's say, 20 minutes and then give yourself a break for 5-10 minutes, and then go into learning again and practicing again, and then give yourself a break. This way, what you can do is, for instance, you practice a few questions, give yourself a break, then come back and practice similar questions and see if you're improving or not. This is a typical technique with regards to studying for exams, where you give your full attention for a small period of time and then get out and give your brain some rest. This is how biologically our brain operates better in memorizing and learning. Next tip is that if there is any question which you think will take you more than 30 seconds to solve, just guess it and move on and don't invest any time in it. On average, you only have 15 seconds to answer each question. So just by looking at the question, if you go into a question and you think it will take you more than 30 seconds, you don't have that much time. You rather invest that time into some other question. So just guess and move forward. Similarly, just take 1 second to analyze whether this particular question is tricky and difficult to solve or not. And if it is difficult and especially it falls under your weakness area, then just guess and move forward. Another tip is to make sure before going in the test, you calm your mind down. If that means that you need to meditate for like 10-15 minutes, do that, because you need to calm that monkey mind down so you can relax and follow all these tips and strategies in order to come out successful in the test. Another tip is to make sure, apart from just practicing random tests and random questions, you also appear on a sample test. I will leave the link to the sample test, which is offered by the PI Cognitive Assessment themselves, like the organization that runs the PI assessment. They offer sample test. Make sure you go through that sample test so you have some understanding on with regards to what to expect in the test. What is the material and will the material look like? What is the format? So you are very much familiar with what to expect in the test, and it is not all surprise for you. Lastly, make sure when you're appearing for the test, you find the right conditions, like it is not noisy, it is not disturbing, and you can focus and relax and just appear in the test. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully after watching this video, you will be now able to ace that PI cognitive test that you have been failing. If in case you like this video, I'm sure you will also like another video on my channel, especially if you move into the next stage of the hiring process where you get into the interview. And this is one interview question which is most underprepared, which is tell me about yourself. You can find the link to that video here. Other than that, there is another section of the interview which is very underprepared, which is tell me any questions that you have to ask me, which is the reverse interview questions. I will leave the link to that video here. You can find it on my channel. Thank you.